Good day. Reed here. Thanks for joining me on my walkabout at Orchestra Farm this morning. And thinking about a couple different things today. Had a great little music session last night with some friends. And I'm also listening to this podcast called The Telepathy Tapes about these autistic kids who are demonstrating telepathy. Pretty fascinating. And one of the things I enjoy about music, so I'm playing improvisationally as a starter point, and this piece of my interest is in having a conversation musically, and this notion of entering into a flow state and a space where you can kind of predict where the other person's going, and so you really sync up in a beautiful way. I'm not saying it is telepathy per se, but there's an interrelation there as far as I'm concerned. And as I was driving, it got me thinking of my life in this way where what are the practices I'm doing that are building me up? Recognizing I'm currently clocked 46 years on the planet, and science would say that if I am not doing things to actively keep my body healthy and building and maintaining, then I am at a phase where I start to degenerate. And so the question is okay, what are the things you got to do to keep all that happening, as in this life? So I'm working out now and lifting weights, and I'm actually looking at, okay, I kind of need to increase that in certain ways so that I actually build, because I am looking to build at this point in my journey. And this other piece that I think is fascinating is, we are a holobiont, which is an acknowledgement that without all of the microbiology that composes us, we don't exist. So that's all the microbes of your guts and on your skin, and the list goes on for basically every part of your body, it kind of seems like. And with all of this, a notion of there's, from what I have perceived, a fractal type nature to our existence. So not only am I a walking ecosystem, but I exist concurrently with an ecosystem, and I am a fundamental part of that. So here I am at Orchestra Farm, one of the places that is fundamental to me on my current journey. And as I've lived on the planet, I've thought to myself, and I was fortunate enough to grow up with a mother who kept a garden, but this notion that to be in a right relationship with myself is to be in a right relationship with the earth. And so rather than waiting until I'm on my own personal piece of land to give gifts to make sure that the earth's biology is also improving. So building soil, you can see some of my biochar things that are going on, or my hugel beds that are making, or any number of the other things of increasing the amount of life and diversity potentials that are here. That could be compost tea and mulching, the list goes on and on. And this piece of all of those different forms of our ecosystem are playing an influencing role with our bodies, just as the microbiomes of our bodies are influencing us. And in relation to these people, this telepathy tapes, they're getting into the notion of consciousness as the base of existence, which is I wouldn't call it a philosophy, but it's a position that I hold. And with that, the notion that all of these different organisms that I just spoke to are actually in communication with us. And you can take it from something simple like, how your gut microbiome influences you to eat certain things. And so when it's healthy and in a right relationship with your wholeness, that brings you towards, greater health. And if it gets out of balance and they're wanting, let's just say, sugars and such, then it can actually lead you into states of dis-ease. Now, I would go so far to say that becomes true on the planetary level, wherein, you can ask yourself the question, am I aiding the planet in having more topsoil or less? And that question can kind of go out in the realm of like, yeah, how are you consuming food? Is it all grocery store bought, and the people who are growing that food have practices that are regenerating the earth? Or is it stuff that you're actually contributing to the erosion of the planet? And, what level of health and well-being is that bringing not only to your personal physical body, to the greater body as well? And that all these things are actually interconnected, are playing a role in our health and vitality. And but when we have a balance in all these different areas and the other areas that make up a good life, then we can achieve something like, that good life, that living in a state of well-being. And in my video around rules and codes and such that I spoke of the other day, that notion of how do these things play into that? I know for myself with my kids, I'm doing my best to include them in these different practices, whether that be working out or sometimes playing music with them and doing different art projects, to bringing them around the different gardening projects and the earth care practices and relating to them how the different ones are building constructive tactics or strategies so that life can proliferate in the different spaces, and to be open, so to be open to communication, so to have meditative practices that can clear our mind. It can get really cluttered, from all of the societal distractions that try to preoccupy us. So it's great to take space for silence. And one of the things I really like about music is that I find I can really clear everything out, so that by the time when I stop and take that pause moment, I just feel a beautiful emptiness, clarity, like the mirror has been like polished to a shine, and I can just rest in that space. And it's from that kind of clear resting place that different messages may come through. It's not every time for sure, but some of the time. And just that notion of my aim is to be, completely functioning. And what I mean by that is, personally, like whether it's telepathy or whatever other, psi type abilities we might have or be able to have, like, hey, that sounds great. Just like I want to be mobile in my body, I want the full range of motion. I want the full range of motion across all of me. And I'm more interested in certain areas than others. So, I definitely lean in those ways, and I think that's fine to do that. You should lean in the ways that feel best to you. Don't spend time developing something you don't care about. But if you do care about it, spend some time developing it, right? Because it's, for me, once I've done that I can start to have too much fun, because I'm increasing the gauge. If I let my body go right now and it starts just degenerating on me, I'm going to lose fun. And yes, you can find it in other areas, but to be as able as I can be in all the different areas as possible, so that I can have as much fun as possible, that's where I'm at. And if you're limited in some fashion, sometimes we need to accept our limitations and make the best out of it anyway. And other times we have to challenge that. And it's one of the interesting things in this telepathy tape are these kids who are challenging our different notions. I think it's so important to do that, because we have not discovered everything yet. There's so much more to discover. And to limit ourselves often, throws the baby out with the bathwater. So I hope that you're here giving it your best. I'm curious, what are some tactics or strategies that you're implementing in your life to live as fully as possible? And I'd love to hear about those. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. I super appreciate that. Again, any comments or questions are super appreciated. And make sure that you have too much fun.